Hello, I'm Gwen Edwards, and welcome to another edition of Our Lives. Now, what do you think when you hear the term hip hop? Keeping it real or real trouble? My first guest today is going to enlighten us about the world of hip hop. Dr. Jeffrey Ogbar is an Associate Dean for the Humanities in the College of Liberal Arts and Science at Uconn, as well as Professor of African American History and a nationally award-winning author. His book, Hip Hop Revolution, The Culture and Politics of Rap, won the W.E.B. Du Bois Book Prize. It is a pleasure to welcome you to Our Lives.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, now, is it safe to say that hip hop has gotten a bad rap and not getting the credit for some of the contributions it's made to society?
Yeah, I think that the hip hop itself is such a diverse art form with so many different elements to it. And oftentimes the time that people who aren't hip hop aficionados know about hip hop is through some controversy, not because they're listening to an artist. And so they become aware of it when someone gets arrested, someone gets shot, someone is going to jail for some charge. But I think or some controversial lyrics are being protested. But beyond that, hip hop is an incredibly rich art form. And there is, of course, a lot of questionable behavior, questionable lyrics also, and some elements of hip hop that aren't always the sorts of elements that you want lauded in society.
Now, for those of us who don't know, don't have a clue, what are some of the positive contributions of hip hop?
Okay. One of the things I find most fascinating about hip hop and its history, so I'm a historian, and when you look at the moment when hip hop emerges in the Bronx in the early 1970s, we're talking about a place that is sort of run by social malaise, political isolation, economic, social isolation, incredible poverty, incredible violence and dislocation of various sorts. So in the poorest borough, in the poorest section of the poorest borough, we have movies that are made about New York City. You may remember some of them, like Escape from New York, Fort Apache, The Warriors, and a lot of movies actually saw New York as a sort of dystopian space of violence, of a city in decline, of civilization in decline. And out of that, we have, with such fear, the youth that were seen as perhaps the most threatening to society, on their own, created gang truces. And out of these gang truces emerged a first hip hop organization called the Zulu Nation, where they brought together young people to compete with each other through dancing, break dancing, through DJs, through MCs, and through so you have rappers as well as graffiti artists. And out of that you have an amazing art form that's taken over the world. And lyrically, we find some of the most complicated, rich use of wordplay, metonyms, metaphors, intertextual allusions, puns, similes that reflect the sort of creative genius of hip hop artists.
And you have to have some education, some sense of what's going on in order to write some of these lyrics.
And social commentary, you're right, and to be informed. And so there's social commentary on everything from AIDS to housing crisis, police brutality, education, homelessness. People have talked about war. People have written rhymes, and then globally, people have talked about issues that are particular to their particular city or country. And so in Kenya, for instance, there are rhymes that people have made about corrupt governments, and also the need for the government to respond to AIDS. In Egypt, there were rappers that came out that talked about Mubarak and Mubarak needing to be disposed of. And so we have people globally, in Libya, in fact, rhymes that were written by hip hop artists in Libya about Gaddafi. And so around the world, hip hop has become a voice for those people who oftentimes don't have voices.
Now, I understand that you use hip hop in your teaching, and it's not something you normally hip hop academia. Tell me how your colleagues and your students react to this out-of-the-box thinking.
I think that initially people, when the class was first conceived in the late 1990s, it was very, very rare. And it wasn't the first class on hip hop, but one of the first classes on hip hop in the country. And it got national attention. In fact, the major news magazine for music, The Source, did not a cover story, did an article on this class at Uconn. And I think a lot of people wondered, and students included, as well as my colleagues, how might one intellectually engage hip hop? But there's so many possibilities. And since in the last, say, 11 years, you have historians, literature scholars, sociologists, political scientists, ethnomusicologists, and musicologists create classes on hip hop. And there's so much to explore there, philosophers, in fact. There's a book, Hip Hop and Philosophy. And so people have engaged existentialism. People have engaged a whole bunch of different things through the lens of hip hop. And so hip hop has become an incredibly rich tool for pedagogy, and it's been used in all sorts of ways.
We want to thank you so much for coming and enlightening us on the wonderful world of hip hop.